Welcome to, or welcome back to the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about some stuff. Now, I've had people accuse me of going after Jonathan Lee Rich's JLR investigates, and people are saying it's because I don't like him or I'm jealous because he has more followers than I do. Well, that's not true. I've known about his past for a long time and I've never mentioned it. In fact, I don't think I've ever publicly mentioned him by name until I learned about the assault accusation made against him by his ex girlfriend, Jaime Phillips, also known as Magnolia. Now, I don't have a problem with anyone having something in their past. I have things in my past that I'm not proud of. And about 20 years ago, I got myself into what you might call a legal pickle. I was set up for something that I didn't do and had to pay the price for it. Now, at that time, my mental health was in the dumpster, and I mean at the bottom with all the sludge that had been building up for years and years. I was suicidal to the point where I was on 7 different medications just so I wouldn't take the long dirt nap. I was a complete mess, and I think the person who did this to me knew that. He knew I wasn't in a place to defend myself. Now, the charge was eventually dismissed, but not until I'd already paid heavily for it. So that's part of the reason I started this channel. Now, I've always had a love of mysteries and true crime, and I've always fought for the underdog. But when I was punched in the gut by someone I thought I could trust, it made me even more determined to not only fight for those wrongly accused, but also to fight for justice for those who never have received it. And let me say that outside of that pickle, the only other pickle I've been in was a speeding ticket way back when I was a teenager and felt the need for speed. I'll also say that since that time, my life has only improved. Now, it hasn't been a direct uphill progress, there have been some dips here and there, but I have gradually made it to the highest place I've ever been in my life. And that jerk face who tried to mess with me, he's been arrested multiple times since then, and his life has gone right into the gutter. Karma, bitch. And I say all that to let you know that I don't instantly judge someone. I look at the entire picture. I look to see if something in their past is a one off or if there's a continuing pattern. Take John Paul Miller, for example. He has a record that spans from 1998 to the present, and to me, that doesn't seem as though he's changed. In my research, I've come across criminal records for people and even their spouses or family members, but I've never talked about it because I've used discretion. If it's not pertinent to the case I'm discussing, then I don't share it. If it's something that they did 5 or 10 years ago and there hasn't been anything since, I don't talk about it. And these are people that a lot of us collectively do not like. They have wreaked havoc and caused mayhem in various true crime cases. They've stood up for the bad guy, but again, I've never felt the need to discuss their past simply as a way to poke at them. So, people have started bringing up Jamie Phillips' past. And as most of you probably know, Jamie Phillips is Magnolia, who is Jonathan Lee Rich's JLR Investigates ex girlfriend, who filed assault charges against him back on Christmas Day of last year and has since filed for an order of protection. So, people have started bringing up her past, mainly about the Project Veritas attempted sting that involved the accusations against Roy Moore. And this is when, while working for Project Veritas, she went to the Washington Post and claimed that Roy Moore had raped her when she was 15 and she became pregnant by him. And that attempted sting failed. The Washington Post knew she was lying, and she never publicly accused Roy Moore of assaulting her in any way. So, because of those accusations against him, people are using it as a reason to accuse her of lying about this assault that allegedly happened back in December. They're also claiming that she's lied about other men, but oddly, they never attach any names to those other claims, so they aren't verifiable. But we know that the Washington Post incident is factual, meaning that she went to the Washington Post with the claims, not that what she said about Roy Moore was true. So, if we're going to look at Jamie's past as a way to determine if she's telling the truth now, then we need to bring up JLR's past, right? To keep things fair? Because once upon a time, Jonathan Lee Riches, using the name Jonathan Bollinger, filed a petition for an order of protection against Jerry Sandusky, the former football coach who has been convicted of child molestation. In that petition, JLR falsely accused him of, wait for it, sexually assaulting him. So, does that mean that Jamie's claim against Roy Moore which never went through any court, is somehow canceled out by JLR's accusation against Jerry Sandusky that actually did go through court. But the people that are going after Jamie don't want to do that. They say that JLR has admitted to what he's done and he's a changed person and it's in the past. Why is there a different set of rules for Jamie? Now, I'm not going to talk about every court case that has JLR's name on it because no one has time for that. But let's look at some that could have a bearing on the current alleged assault. Now, his record starts in 1996 with a list of charges against him that year that include harassing communications, stalking, and intercepting communications, also known as wiretapping. How very dare I bring up something from that long ago, right? But haven't we brought up John Paul Miller's charges from 1998 and judged him on that? We have, and I think fairly so, because I also think John Paul Miller is a horrible person. In 2003, JLR was arrested and then convicted for defrauding people out of money, which landed him in 10 years of prison. There was a teenager in Dallas who fished the credit card details of AOL users and then sold that information to JLR, who then used that credit card information to buy a lot of stuff. He even had 7 accomplices in his scheme, including his parents. And then, while in prison for that, he began his career as a lawsuit savant. He filed thousands of frivolous lawsuits and never seemed to win any. He would later say that he did it because, quote, I was just creating a clusterfuck. That was my entertainment when I was in prison, end quote. One of the lawsuits was filed against the government for seizing the property that he'd purchased with the fake credit cards, and JLR thought they needed to give it back to him. They didn't. In 2012, he was still on parole from his 2003 conviction and violated that parole by leaving Pennsylvania without permission. And he left so he could travel to Sandy Hook, Connecticut and pose as Adam Lanza's uncle. For those of you who don't remember, Adam Lanza was the shooter at Sandy Hook Elementary School. While there, JLR dropped to his knees at a memorial that had been set up for the victims of the shooting and prayed, or at least pretended to pray. A reporter saw him and asked who he was, and he tearfully said he was the uncle of Adam, and then he gave interviews posing as Adam's uncle. At the end of 2012, his wife at the time, Naomi, filed for a temporary restraining order against him. And this letter from Lieutenant John Frias in Chester County, Pennsylvania, was included in the petition, so let's read it. Quote, reference Naomi Riches. I was contacted on 21 December 2012 by Naomi Riches, plaintiff in PFAs, which is a protection order, or protection from abuse. Naomi Riches said she had been 302 committed by Jonathan Riches, and she was in Fairmount Behavioral System. She said Jonathan claimed she ran into traffic in front of the Justice Center at 201 West Market Street, Westchester, Pennsylvania. She asked if there was any video of the Justice Center. I informed her yes, there was on the front of the Justice Center. Jonathan Riches' husband had filed a PFA against Naomi Riches' wife. The hearing was held on 17 of December 2012 in courtroom number 10 in the Chester County Justice Center at 0900 hours. Naomi said the alleged incident occurred after the hearing between 1000 and 1200 hours, 17 December 2012. She also asked for any reports the sheriff's office may have about the incident. I checked the video for that day between the hours reported. I did not find any incident that occurred in front of the Justice Center, 201 West Market Street, Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I checked the report system, Cody, and found there were no incident reports generated that day for any incidents either in the lobby or in front of the Justice Center. I have also learned that Naomi was present in the Justice Center and the PFA hearing was continued until 24 February 2013, as the Sheriff's Office paperwork shows that Jonathan Riches was not served a PFA, nor could I confirm at this time he was in the Justice Center. I have learned that Jonathan Riches also went to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and filed another PFA against Naomi Riches. Jonathan Riches has been arrested on violation of probation and parole from Chester County Adult Probation and Parole, and also federal charges are outstanding against him. Copies of PFAs and information have been supplied to detectives for additional charges against Jonathan Riches for harassment against Naomi Riches. Lieutenant John R. Frias, Director of Operations, Chester County Sheriff's Office. So a 302 commitment is an involuntary emergency commitment. So it sounds like JLR had his ex-wife committed to a mental health facility based on a lie he told about her running into traffic, which didn't happen. In 2015, JLR began trolling political rallies, but did it in kind of a super gross way, such as pretending to be a Muslim. He attended rallies for Donald Trump with a Muslims for Trump sign, but then he'd run off to a rally for Hillary Clinton, his sign now bearing the words Muslims for Clinton. And he would also pose as a Jew at rallies using the name Jonah Rich. In 2018, JLR was in trouble again with the federal government for impersonating Jared Lee Loughner and suing Gabby Giffords under that name. And he was awarded 5 years of probation for that charge. In November of 2018, journalist Luke O'Brien had an interview with JLR. And in it, JLR admitted making up an entire story about being Jonah Rich and how he came from a Jewish family who had ostracized him because he was supporting Donald Trump. And of course, none of that was true. And when asked if he thought of impersonating a Jewish person immediately after the shooting that happened at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018, JLR said, quote, "I'm just thinking of myself in the moment. With different rallies, I try to go with different themes. So I had that Jews for Trump shirt and I had the yarmulke for a while, and it was just an opportunity to use it at that time. Just the luck that the tragedy happened. I'm like, okay, I'm going to run with the Jews for Trump because of the tragedy. I don't think about the long-term consequences as far as disinformation or offending anyone." End quote. I know a lot of you think, well, that's in his past again, but just the luck that the tragedy happened is so completely abhorrent to me. I don't know that I could ever get past that. In that same interview, he was asked if social media made it easier to troll, and JLR responded with, quote, "I think the tools are available now that can be exploited, and it's easy to get that message spread. The disinformation that I want, I can put out there. The next mass shooting, before they identify the shooter, I can set up 10 Twitter accounts looking like news sites and then create whoever I want as the shooter, and then use the other news sites to retweet that. Vulnerable, gullible people will see that. They will think it's from a news site, and then they will copy it and tweet it out. Whenever there's disasters, I also set up Facebook groups, and then just thousands flock into the groups. I encourage everyone to basically fight each other. I don't censor anything." End quote. Are people actually okay with someone who has done things like this? That they've manipulated information about a crime? This is so horrific to me. And JLR also admitted that he created Facebook accounts so he could be anonymous. Quote, "Every single tragedy that's happened in this country since, I would say 2015, I got a group set up in that topic. I can create fake Facebook accounts under people's names so I can be anonymous. If a mass shooting happens, I'll create a video real quick and put whoever I want to identify as the mass shooter, put some music, photo edit it real quick, and then throw it up on BitChute because I know that will be the searched word." End quote. And he finished that interview with this quote, "I don't know what the future is going to be like. I just think that 2019 is going to be a bloody political mess right now before the election again. It's going to be tense, man. And it depends on what Trump trolls around and tries to excite everybody with. I just know whatever's going on, I'm going to be trolling. Whatever breaking news, you can expect me to troll it." End quote. So if we take all of these statements together, we see someone openly describing a pattern of behavior built around exploiting chaos. Tragedies, mass shootings, political tension, breaking news, none of it seems to be off limits. Horrific events that have forever altered the lives of our fellow humans are fair game to manipulate. And not just manipulate. The events are treated as opportunities. Opportunities to create false narratives, impersonate sources, and spread misinformation at the exact moment people are most vulnerable and searching for the truth. And why would anyone do that? Because they get some kind of sick enjoyment out of it? It's not accidental, it's not harmless. It's deliberate and calculated, and it has real world consequences for real people. Now, I don't think this type of moral turpitude is the same as him suing a bunch of people to keep himself entertained in prison, which was bad enough. To me, this is a level of depravity that I would hope that people wouldn't want to support. So, does JLR actually care about the cases he races to? Does it matter to him if John Paul Miller is ever brought to justice? Does it matter if Nancy Guthrie's ever found? Or is he still sticking with this statement that whatever breaking news, you can expect me to troll it? And now the question is, who has more of a background of lying, Jaime Phillips or Jonathan Lee Riches? So if people want to skewer Jamie for her attempted sting and lying to the Washington Post about Roy Moore, then why aren't they skewering JLR for his very thick portfolio of lies? Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, and comment so more people can hear this episode. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.